Good morning. This morning I want to talk to you about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I find it amazing that so many people try to explain the meaning of these rights without taking into context the only two items of importance. First was the way the colonists were ruled by the king at the time of the writing of the Declaration of Independence. So how the king was ruling over the colonists just before the Revolutionary War had a great effect upon the meaning of these rights that they were trying to give their new nation. The second was that these rights come from nature's God, the Creator God, and are therefore naturally true for life in the jungle, without any government above you or any legal society around you. You see, they didn't say the God of the Bible or Jesus or anything else. They said the nature's God, to get away from religion and go directly to the Creator God, you see. The colonists were accused and convicted of trumped-up charges by the king and his minions, making the courts a venue for legalized murder. You see, they were using the courts to kill the colonists and calling it legal because they found them guilty of a crime, when the trials were scams, basically. After the Revolutionary War, Pennsylvania dropped the death penalty altogether, presumably because of the right to life in the Declaration of Independence. You see, so the colonists, as far as liberty is concerned, the colonists were rounded up on charges and would be held for long times without trial by the king. You see, so the king was rounding up the colonists that he had a problem with, and he'd hold them, and he wouldn't run them through a trial because he couldn't find them guilty of anything, so he'd just hold them without trial. This is obviously the primary reason for liberty. The colonists were subject to any sort of limitations on personal sexual freedom based upon the whims of the king. For instance, British law at the time gave the death sentence for homosexuality. And the colonists had slaves, and some of those slaves were kids, and they would, they had their sexual freedoms with their slaves. So this is obviously the reason for the pursuit of happiness, being the right for the individual to choose for himself concerning his sexual desires and activities. The only way these rights can have any meaning is for the Declaration of Independence to be a document that limits the lawmaking ability of every level of government, business, and society in the United States of America. The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness has no meaning at all unless it can limit the lawmaking ability of the government, limit the rights of businesses and the rights of society, as in community standards, to stay within these freedoms, that you can't make any kind of laws, rules, or regulations to interfere or thwart these freedoms that the Founding Fathers give you. Now, currently, and for a very long time, really going almost back to the beginning of the Constitution, they took these rights away. You see, the country started here. The United States of America started with the writing of the Declaration of Independence. This was the founding document of the country. But when they got to the Constitution, they made a grab for power. And they put life, liberty, and property under the law. Now, anything that doesn't have a specified freedom, if you don't have a specific freedom that is yours, if it's not a declared freedom, then it is presumed automatically, it's assumed to be under the law. The government has the right to make any laws it wants unless it's restricted from making that kind of law. So there's no reason to put life, liberty, and property under the law. Doesn't make any sense. If you didn't have that in there at all, they would still be under the law unless there was a freedom that was granted to you previously. And so what happened in the amendments, the first 10 amendments, I think it was in the 5th amendment as I recall, that the life, liberty, and property were put under the law was to take away your freedom. And then because of the Civil War, it was restated again in the 14th Amendment that life, liberty, and property is under the law. So they said it again, and they put it in there twice in the amendments, you see, to make sure that life, liberty, and property are under the law, meaning you do not have the right to life, you do not have the right to liberty, and you do not have the right to property. That they can take anything they want to away from you by making any law they want to make. Americans don't understand this. The government does, the Supreme Court does, but Americans don't. They have been deceiving you. You see, the American government, in the most massive deception ever conducted, I think, on the entire American population over the life of this country so far, has deceived the nation into believing they have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But you do not. You should, you're supposed to, but you don't. And you'd be a far different country if you did. So we should get our rights back. But the first step in getting your rights back is to recognize that you've lost them. Have a nice day.